Okay, so today in the shop behind me, we got a 2000 Grand Cherokee Laredo, and we are going to do the drag link. All right, so if we come under the center of the front of the truck, you will see your Pitman arm here, and basically that runs down here to the passenger side, the upper up there. And you can see we're getting a clunking noise here. You can see how loose that is. I mean, this thing's just flopping around there, and you can feel it in the steering. And I got some Napa numbers for you here. 2693155. This is the one that connects to the Pitman arm itself. Alright, you can see this is the one that comes up. And this is our passenger side upper, ES3474. This one is the one that just pretty much curves in, which is to the over here on the passenger side. That's this one here that just curves in. Alright, so we are going to start by removing this cotter pin up here, and then we're going to take off this castle nut. What you're going to need to get these cotter pins out, the easiest way to do it is just to get yourself a pair of side cutters like this, and you want to clamp the back of it. Let's get it on there like that, and then we're going to get a hammer and we're going to tap that out. And that's it. We got this castle nut on the top. That's going to be a 3/4 socket. Castle nut's off. Alright, so there's a couple different ways you can get this out of there. Okay, trying to get my light in the right spot here. So you can take your castle nut, because most people aren't going to have a pickle fork at home, and flip your castle nut upside down like that, and kind of thread it back on there. Okay, so we're kind of flush. Now what you can do is take a heavy hammer and kind of hit this. Alright, and the reason you're putting the castle nut there is because you don't want to mess up the threads when you're hitting this. Okay, so, or you can take the pickle fork here, which you can see this is kind of tapered, and it will slide in right underneath there. Now you can do one or two things with that. You can either and you may need a leverage bar to slide over this, so you can pull down out here to get some more torque. You can try it with your hands. Some of them come out easy. Or you see how this is tapered, so if you were to bang this in, as it goes in, it gets wider here, which would start separating this, and eventually it would drop down. There's a couple different ways to do it. But if you don't have this, you're going to probably end up going this route here. Flipping this upside down and tapping that until this drops. And the nut pretty much will keep it from falling all the way out. So let's go ahead and tap and see if we can get it that way. There it goes. Okay. Now that that's loose, actually, we're gonna leave this nut in here, and we're gonna go over now to the Pitman Arm Side, and we're gonna start taking that off. So when you get over here, you're gonna notice that the nut is pretty much, you can't get a socket or anything on there. You got the frame right here. We don't have a whole lot of room for our hands to get in there, so we need to move this arm out. So you can do this one or two ways. You can go up there and turn the steering wheel and bring this out, or you can just go over there and kind of pull on that rotor and turn it that way, and that'll move the arm out. So I'm gonna go turn that, and you can watch that arm move. Now we got a little bit more room here now. At least I can get my hand up in here. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is try to straighten out this cotter pin here, and then we're going to get our side cutters on there and try to pull that out. It's going to be a little bit more difficult up here because we're still in some tight quarters. And if you can't get your side cutters on here, maybe get a small tiny hammer that you can get in here and tap on this side and try to push this side out a little bit to give you some area to grip. Alright, or we could try to get some pliers up in here. Sometimes it's really difficult to pull it a little bit, but your best bet might be just tapping. Alright, I got a little tiny hammer. Don't have a whole lot of room, but you also don't want to bang really hard either. I got that coming out a little bit farther now. That might be enough to grab it there. I got a long set of needle nose pliers here. I'm going to try to pull that out. Yep, that side broke. So I wonder if this side is free now, if we could pull that out. Oh yeah, it pulled right out the other side. Alright, well, the clip broke on this side and I pulled it out that side. So we're up to this castle nut now, 3/4. We're not going to get our ratchet gun in here. We're going to have to go with a wrench. There's not a lot of room. So when you're putting your wrench on here, I don't recommend using the opened end. Alright, I would use the closed end, and you want to use the end that's going down. Don't put it on like that, because you're taking the chance of that slipping off. Turn it so that it's going down. Alright, and you want to make sure, this is hard to do with one hand here, but you want to make sure that that is seated firmly on there and perfectly level. So now we got the wrench facing towards the passenger side. What I'm going to do, I got this long leverage bar here. I'm going to slide this on. Alright, and you can see my hand all the way over here on this bar. Push down. It's going. Pretty rusty. Alright. Now that's pretty... That should be loose enough to do by hand now. Got it one turn. Let me see. Yeah. Alright. So if they're rusted, it's gonna take a little bit of elbow grease here to get them all the way off. Alright, we got the castle nut off. Now, this is going to be a little hard to tap on with a hammer up here. You don't have really any room to get a swing in. You can try taking the small hammer if you want to put some PB Blaster, some WD-40, whatever you have around here, and kind of lube it up and go away for a couple minutes. And try getting a hammer, a small hammer, and getting a little bit of a swing in, see if it'll pull down. But right now, I'm not saving this end here, so I'm going to use my pickle fork and put it in there and try to pry that down. Easiest way to do this is come over here and pull your driver's side out. So you see the Pitman arm there coming closer to you. Now we can get right in there. I'm just going to put it right underneath there. Now we can hit it with the hammer from here. There it goes. And that's why I leave these castle nuts on the top so it didn't just drop down. Especially if you're underneath of the truck, you don't want it dropping on your head down there. When you flip these castle nuts upside down, if you're having a hard time getting these off, if you're spinning these, and this is spinning also, sometimes it does that, they get rusted on. You can take like a thin pair of vice grips or get a pair of vice grips under here, and you can actually clamp down on that like that. That'll hold it from, oh, they fell. But anyway, that'll hold it from spinning, and then take your wrench and turn the nut off. Our bar is down, and before you do anything else, what you want to do, get this up here on your bench, preferably a vise. Put this in the vise. Now, there's a couple different methods to doing this, okay? One of them is you can measure from center here over to center here. All right. Reason because this is going to throw your steering wheel way off if you don't put these back in the exact amount. Okay. The other way is get a little pick and count the amount of threads you have showing here, and write that number down. And come to this side, get a pick, and count the amount of threads showing here, because you want to make sure you thread it back in and it goes back on exactly the way you had it, or you're going to find yourself, your steering wheel is going to be crooked. Both ways. And to count the teeth on these, just put a little pick here and go really slow, or you're going to skip over teeth. And just count the clicks, really. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so I actually got 16 and 16 on each side, which is pretty cool. It's easy to remember. Doesn't mean yours are both going to be even. So that's why you definitely want to check it and make sure. And you want to thread these back in so that you have that amount of threads left showing. Next up, we got these 15mm nuts right here. You can get a socket or a wrench. And they may be rusted, so, oh, that one's actually not that tight. The nut's tight, but the bracket wasn't tight. Alright, so now that you have your threads counted, this loose, come up to your tie rods, you'll see a little groove here, and there's going to be one on the bottom. Alright, this you can actually slide a wrench over, or you can use a pipe wrench. I'm going to use a wrench in this case. And mine is a 7/8. And we're going to put it on here. And these are reverse thread. So turning to the right is actually going to loosen it, and left would obviously recess it in. We want to turn these to the right. The passenger side is not reverse thread, so you're actually going to be turning this lefty loosey. Alright, so we're just going to pull up, and some of these are going to be, there it goes, there we go, to the right, and that'll back it all the way out. Alright, so we have a side-by-side comparison with the new one. You want to make sure it's the right one, and you can see actually how much thread was showing, as you can see all the rust. So this was the part that was recessed inside. So when you go to screw this back in, you're gonna screw in a little bit, then you're gonna count threads. You're gonna screw in, and you're gonna count threads. Well, what I do to eliminate a lot of that, you can clearly see. Just line these threads up. You can clearly see where you're supposed to go to. You could take even a piece of tape and put it right around here. So then you know you at least got a thread in at least up to where that tape is. Alright, then we can take the tape off and then start counting. So we're not over counting every time we screw it in. I got my tape on here. Covered that part up. And I use painter's tape. Duct tape be a little bit of a pain in the butt to get off of there when you're ready to pull it off. But now what we're going to do is take some Never Sees and just put a little coat of Never Sees on here. And we're just going to turn this up until about where that tape is. And then we know we're going to be right around the spot that we need to be. We can go ahead and pull that tape off now. And we should be pretty close in the thread count there. So I'll go ahead and count them. 17. So we're going to go one more turn in. And that should be right at 16. Right there. 16. That's it. So with that tape, you really only have to check it once. Alright, at this point we can go ahead and tighten this up. Before you tighten this up, you want to make sure that you are straight up and down. You don't want this thing sideways like that. I mean, you do have a little bit of play because this does move here, but you want to just make sure that you are straight up and down. It's exactly the way you were when you took it off. New one should have came with a new grease fitting, new castle nut, and a new pin. And your grease fitting is going to go right there on the top. Alright, our grease fitting's in, and that's going to be a 5/16. But it's in, so now we're going to go over here and we're going to do the same thing we did to that side to this side. Except this side is not going to be reverse thread, so you're actually going to be lefty loosey, and this is on the passenger side, the upper tie rod. And that one wasn't so bad at all. And back in we go. Go ahead and take our tape off. And now we're going to count our threads. Alright, so we have 17, so we want to go in one more, and that should give us the 16 that we need there. Now put your grease fitting in. Remember, that's 5/16 wrench. You can start it by hand, and then you can wrench it the rest of the way in. Alright, now you can tighten up your 15mm nut here, and then she's ready to go in. So grab your castle nuts and your cotter pins, and we're going to see you underneath. Now, before we slide it under, we're going to take those grease fittings here, and we're just going to shoot some grease into there. You can see it coming out of the top there. And do the same thing for the other side. Alright, so first thing we're going to do, I got the other end resting on a bucket down there. Kind of make this a little level. We're just going to slide this back up there like that. And get our castle nut started here. There we go. Now we can let go and it's pretty much there. We're going to take our 3/4 inch wrench and we're going to tighten this down so it's nice and tight, and we can line up that castle nut with that cotter pin hole. We're going to slide it in there, and we're going to get a pair of pliers. Sometimes you can do this by hand. I'm going to bend them around. You don't want that coming out. Alright, just get a hammer and I'm going to tap them in a little bit. There we go. Alright, and that side's on. Alright, I actually had to come underneath and push up on it to get those threads to come through enough. But I got the castle bolt started. So now the fun part is going to be, well, it shouldn't be too hard. We're going to go outside the tire again, so we can get our wrench through here and we can see where that cotter pin hole is going to line up with the castle nut. So we're back out here. If you pivot your arm back out again, you'll actually be able to get your ratchet drive in on this side over here to tighten that up. So we're going to tighten this until we can see that cotter pin hole. And if you got all grease in here, sometimes the hole gets clogged up. You can take your pick. I know our hole's back here. And your pick will drop right into the hole. So I can feel it back there. This is just a little challenging. Yeah, our hole's right there. I got our cotter pin in there. I use my hammer to get it to come through. Coming through? Oh yeah, it's coming out the other side. It's just hard to do it one hand here. Alright, cotter pin's in. Now you want to bend them around. I don't want that coming out. Just like that. Alright, that one's good. Alright, so at this point now, you can throw the wheel back on and definitely take it for a test drive. I don't mean go flying down the highway at 90 miles an hour right away, just in case something goes wrong, but take it around the neighborhood, make some sharp turns, step on the brakes, just, you know, drive it locally, drive it slow, and make sure everything is legit. And hopefully it all works out for you and that clanking and vibrating goes away. Anyways, guys, please, just for my time, and if I helped you out, even if I didn't, just hit subscribe below, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.